tips and tricks on the DALiM products. Um, we're going to be doing these sessions every second Wednesday of the month, covering DALiM stuff. We also do some specific ones for semi-ad and virtual publisher. In fact, if you go to our website at blanchardsystems.com under our events page, you'll actually see a calendar of all the events we have coming up. So you'll be able to actually see the events, when they are. As soon as we know the topics that we're going to cover during those events, we'll post those on there as well. So you can see we already have our July meeting. Should be up and posted. We have content there. We're going to be covering the file system parts of ES4, how to set those up, permissions, creating the Smart Views forum, and you can go ahead and register for that webinar straight through the website. Today, what we're going to have is Mike Moscato is going to be doing some tips and tricks that are specific to some things in TWiST 7, some things that like were covered during Duo, a few new things. If you'd like, if you need to zoom in on the screen, if it's not the right size for you, there is a zoom feature at the top left of your GoToMeeting window. Also, any questions, please type those in the questions control panel, and we'll cover those after Mike's done. So for right now, I'm going to go ahead and turn this over to Mike and let him get started. Okay, Mike.
Okay. I think
we see your
you're
screen.
seeing my screen. Do you see me?
Yes.
Excellent. Let's get this GoToWebinar thing out of the way. I'll just park it down there. Okay. As Fred said, what I'm going to be going over with today is some of the newer functions in TWiST 7. If you were at Duo, you probably saw a good portion of this, although a few of the things that I'll go over, there's a couple extra things I may be able to show. And everything I'm running today is off of a TWiST 7 server running on Linux. Just to give you the lay of the land, I'm not working in the office in New Orleans. I'm remote, so you're going to see a few things where I'm kind of pushing things back and forth between here and there, but hopefully everything will behave. So let's go. I'm going to start with a couple of very basic things, and we might as well start at the input. One thing that you may be familiar with if you're an ES user already is the ability to pick up files from an FTP server and also to have files be emailed and picked up. What's happened is TWiST has basically glommed or added those features within TWiST workflows now. You just saw me open the Input Files tool up, and you'll see there's two new options in here. FTP, which is actually monitoring an FTP server. And I think you guessed this is not the sexiest feature in the world. In fact, in general, I think most of you know TWiST is a fairly mature product. So I'm not going to show anything today that turns water into gold, but there's some good stuff. So let's try something very basic. This is a TWiST workflow monitoring an FTP server. In fact, this is Blanchard's FTP server sitting in the office. It's pretty straightforward, right? You put the credentials in, have it start watching, and I'm just getting my little FTP client here. And we're going to throw a couple files up there. Should have turned my email alerts off. And one thing that you'll also notice was I actually had a subfolder sitting inside of that FTP folder that I was going to. And you see here TWiST has gone out, pulled those back off of the FTP server, and from there, I think you can guess it's whatever you want your workflow to be can be just a normal, typical TWiST server from that point. You can see the other file just got picked up. One thing to keep in mind, especially if you wanted to monitor or have several customers dumping files into a common place, you'll notice the subfolder I just went into. So this will work just like any other TWiST hot folder in that the notion of dynamic hot folder still works. So if I throw into that subfolder, I can associate these files, in this case with the customer ABC. It'll create the variable for me, and then I can deal with it as needed, again, based on how the rest of the workflow may be set up. You can see that guy came in, and just as in a normal TWiST server, they've made some of these things hard to read. That light blue color is kind of hard to read, but you can see it identified the folder it came in, and then I can act on that. That's about it for pointing to a FTP server. It's pretty straightforward. The other option is a little more interesting, although I know I've had a few discussions with people who were still kind of debating how or if someone would implement this sort of thing, and that is submitting files via email. And I got kind of a crazy workflow here, but I think you'll see in a little bit why I've kind of set it up the way I have. So again, you're monitoring a mail server. This just happens to be a postfix mail server I have set up here. A user that's going to be able, it has to be a defined user that can log in, and there's a specific folder I'm going to watch on there, this inbox folder. And I believe, let's go take a look, I have myself an email all set up and ready to go. So I'm pointing it to that. I've got a couple of images thrown in here. So let's email those over here. Let's see what TWiST is going to do when it gets something like that. Actually, you can see it's already processing those files. And one of the interesting things you can do from here is if we hit the show memories here, you'll notice that TWiST picks up many different variables when it gets an email in. It's this category called _mail_. So for instance, we know who it came from. Because we can detect who the file came from, we can send a return receipt back to that person. In fact, what I did is within this workflow, these just happen to be images, but you can do the same thing with PDFs, as I'll show you in a bit. I sent myself an email, put a little downsampled version of the file inside of it. So basically, you know, if you're emailing files in, you may think, well, I don't know if they got it or not. This is a quick way you can send a receipt. And the other thing I did, and this presumes that you actually have a dialog engine or maybe an ES server, I actually put a link into the file so you can actually go in and view the file that you've uploaded. And you'll see what we've done here is we've made the link so it uses the HTML5 viewer that's built into the dialog engine now. So hopefully any user who submits in this way won't have any nervous breakdowns because their Java version isn't working with the Java applet. Another interesting thing to do here is, let's say this is not from a user standpoint, but maybe someone who's trying to set this up and debug. Now, frankly, when I started working with this, I kept sending an email and an email and an email and an email to, you know, kind of get the workflow set up. But one of the things that this will do is if you go to an email in your account that's already been sent, if you unread it, TWiST will actually go and pick up that file and process it again. So you can see it just grabbed that guy, and it essentially is doing the same thing over again. Lastly, and this will kind of lead into the next point I want to make here. This is one I sent the other day. I think this is the right one. That's probably it. This is a multi-page PDF. And basically I want to show you something that this workflow will do, and also lead into a new function in TWiST 7. So you notice that PDF got broken apart. And again, it's basically going to do the same thing it did before. It's going to file them away. And actually, I should have shown you this. That was a bad example. Now let's look at it. I may have had that one set up properly. I didn't do it. Well, I'm probably short on time, so I'm not going to do the whole thing. But the point I was trying to make is when you submit a file from email, one of the other variables that gets read out is the body of the email. So you can actually make yourself essentially a pseudo job ticket out of these things. So if you wanted to define, let's say, customer, a job name, and maybe even some special instructions, might as well do it. It's not going to take that long. And we'll say it's customer ABC. Oops, that's the job name. We don't care. Job is customer, and the customer is customer ABC. Let's just throw one of my PDFs in there. That's the guy. And again, there's nothing all that bizarre here. It's just an email. Yeah, let's get rid of that. And the other thing is, obviously, the subject can be read as well. The very roundabout point I'm trying to make is that that information from the body can be picked up. Since it's defined as variables, we can file everything away and store it based on what is seen in the body or even the subject of the email. This is the workflow we're running, and this is a little kind of a hidden thing that I don't think DALiM has made much of a point about. You have to be more of an advanced TWiST user to even think about it. If you submit an email that has multiple attachments in it, which we did with that first one, right, where it had 2 images in it, one thing TWiST has to do is it has to be able to break those apart and provide them as individual files. And so you have a fork tool that's in here that breaks all those things out so they can be dealt with. But you also saw I had a multi-page PDF that got broken apart. If a multi-page PDF does not get split at the input files tool, the question is, how can you split it in the middle of the workflow? It used to be, on older versions of TWiST, you had to run this specific routine through the command merge tool. But you'll see now, PDF split is built into the fork tool as well. So there's an option within fork. So at any time in a workflow, it doesn't have to be the beginning, you can break apart a PDF and handle it from there. So as I said, in this case, it never split it till it initially broke the files out of the email, and then in this case I had it set to detect multi-page PDFs and route them accordingly. All right, that's a whole lot of talking about submitting files via email. Next, this is something we showed, and you can see my file just got picked up. I guess I talk faster than TWiST can process. This is a function that frankly has been a long time coming. This is the ICC tool. As many of you are aware, over the years, if you wanted to completely color manage a file, specifically a PDF or maybe a DALiM page, you had to do it within the PS check tool, because the PS check tool has the ability to color manage both raster and vector or text elements. In the past, the standalone ICC tool would handle only raster-based formats, images. But you can see now the ICC tool pretty much mimics what was in the PS check tool. So you could say, well, what are the benefits of that? And what I want to show you here is this now gives you the ability, and I have 3 cases here, but this will give you the ability to have one file in and then as many or multiple different color managed files out. So in this instance, what we're doing is when files first come in, we're going to normalize everything to a common color space, right? So everything that comes in, if there's some RGBs in it, lab, whatever, everything is color managed to a common CMYK color space. But then from there, we can spit out, maybe we want a 240 total link, 280, maybe we want an RGB image as well. That can be done. So let's get over to WebLink, what you should see pop up is this is the HTML5 uploader. That is a newer feature. What I'm going to do, I'm going to take a single file, this guy. You notice we have drag and drop again. Doesn't sound like a big thing, but if you are struggling with a Java uploader, I think you would agree it is. And you can see the HTML5 uploader presents you with the same type of web-linky job options that you're used to seeing with the Java uploader. I'm going to tell it I want all three of these things. So we'll tell it to go. And from there, I think you know what's going to happen. Those guys are going to show up in here. And it's one file in, but we're going to get three files out. There's the 280, there's 240. Down here is the RGB. And hopefully, well, not hopefully, we don't work in hope. We work in reality here. Let's go get our files. Webinar, ICC, and there they are. 240, 280, and an RGB. Now, I had to prove to everybody at Duo that they really were color managed properly, but we're kind of short on time. And I know everybody believes me. I wouldn't fib to you for something like that. So the key takeaway from there is ICC tool, same color management options as you're used to in PSCheck, and allows you to do one in, multiple color managed files out. Now, since we're talking about ICC, the following thing I'm going to show you is not necessarily a TWiST 7 thing, but it's definitely a good trick and or tip. This is something that resulted from a hotline call we had with a customer last week. On the surface, this may sound like something that's easily done, but as it turned out, it's not. Here's what they were doing. They were running an image-based workflow. And they wanted to use a device link profile. Now, as we know, device link profiles, actually, I shouldn't have this stuff in here. Let's get rid of that. A device link profile is both source and destination within your file. But what this customer wanted to do, and actually this is their profile, they wanted to use a device link profile to color manage their incoming images, but they also wanted to embed an output profile in the image. Now you'll notice that the color management has the option to embed an output profile, but you cannot embed a device link profile in an image. Photoshop doesn't like it. The other issue is if you try to run something like this post-output routine, right, and call up a profile and tell it to embed it, the ICC tool will embed it, but it will also color manage the file again, which we do not want it to do. So the question is, how do you get TWiST to embed a color profile without trying to color manage the file again? And it turns out there's an obscure tool, and I can honestly say I've never used it, which is the image OPI tool that allows you to do that. If you look in this tool, notice what it has down at the bottom. It has this option for add ICC profile, override existing, and this will stuff a profile into an image for you and not try to recolor manage the file. Now, is that really true? Well, let's see. This image, let's just make sure before I make any extravagant claims. You'll notice that currently the embedded profile is the Adobe RGB. What should happen, based on how this workflow is set up, I should get a file with the Grackle profile embedded in it because, again, this was a CMYK workflow. Based on how this workflow is set up, if it's RGB, I'll first color manage to CMYK, use the device link profile, and embed my desired profile when it comes out. There it comes, and I should have a file right there, the webinar folder. So let's see if this has Grackle in it now. Indeed it does. So the takeaway on that one is if you need to embed a profile, the Image OPI tool will do it. That's pretty good. There are third-party solutions as well. If you want to roll your own, you can use the EXIF tool. Will do the same thing, and you can call that from TWiST. Next up. A lot of the stuff has to do with how you submit files to TWiST. I can show you real quickly is the InDesign plugin for submitting files to TWiST. This is a very new option that DALiM has out there. Frankly, it's kind of bare bones. I think they have some work to do, but it is functional. Let's show you how it works. You can see I've got a 4-page PDF. Let's go to page 1. Here's our old Duo president, Robert Fenikowski. First off, with the InDesign plugin, how do you tell it where to go? I want to go to TWiST, right? You see under Preferences, there's this thing called TWiST Link. This points it to the TWiST server you want to point to. A little test button says, yep, I know where it is. That's good. Next, assuming the file's ready to go, you have this Upload to TWiST option. This actually polls my TWiST server, shows me my list of available workflows. I want to use that one. And I think old school TWiST users can probably tell this looks a lot like working with WebLink. And really, I'm just doing a PDF output from InDesign. And what we're going to see happen in about 2 seconds here. Go over to TWiST. There's our file. It should be a multi-page PDF, so we should get busted apart. Come on. There we go. And let's face it, once it gets to TWiST, there's nothing special about this workflow. This is a by-the-book TWiST workflow. There's nothing in it that says, oh, I want to work with InDesign plugin. It just accepts a file and then takes off and processes it. Now, I made the analogy earlier about this being kind of WebLinky. So a WebLink user would say to me, okay, well, how can I work with different job options? Because, I mean, I always want everything to be the same. This is that ICC workflow we used earlier. If you hit the configure button, you get this. You get your workflow options like you normally would. And let's say I don't want to do that RGB. In fact, all I want is a 280 total length file. So we'll say yes, I'm going to add. Process, and I think my settings should be the same. Now, hopefully, it'll go to the right workflow.
I should add for Mike, we still have several customers who still actually output PostScript from InDesign just because they don't want to lose those PPD variables that they were used to using, and they don't want their users having to create a PDF and then upload it via WebLink. This gets them to that. They can move to PDF now using this plugin.
Notice from within the job log that it picked up those variables that I requested, right? The way I named it was Inc1, Inc2, so it's really only making the 280 guy. And I'm going to guess in my plugin folder here. There we go. There's our file. Oh, I went through the ICC workflow, so I was going to stick it in there. There we go. The other point is that this plugin works with InDesign. It also works with Illustrator. I'm running CS5. We'll work with CS5, 5.5, 6, and I think there's a Creative Cloud version, but don't quote me on that. I'm pretty sure that's true.
I believe so. I think it's a different plugin, but I believe it is.
Yep. Next thing I want to show you really is to clear up something that was presented at Duo that was inaccurate. It's a new feature in TWiST 7. If you have any workflow, if you right-click in the background, we're used to seeing this Properties option. And notice in TWiST 7 there's this new option called Timeout of Executables. And you can give it a specific time. What this is for is if there are any tools which you feel sometimes start chewing on a file excessively and you want them to time out or abort after a specific amount of time, that value can be entered here. I think one of the most common ones we've seen over the years is sometimes the output PDF tool may get an extremely complex file that may take a while to flatten. Now, what was stated at Duo was this value, say 6 minutes, excuse me, referred to the entire workflow. In other words, the file would have to go all the way from start to finish in under 6 minutes, and that's not the case. It applies per tool. So, for instance, if there was, if the ICC conversion took more than 6 minutes, I don't think it's gonna, but I think you see my point, it will abort. And it goes to this guy. Let's say he took more than 6 minutes, it would abort. So this setting is per tool, not per workflow. It's a good thing to keep in mind. The other thing to remember is that existing tools, for instance, the Power Trap tool and PS Check are tools that already have built-in options for timeout after something like that. The setting within the tool itself trumps the overall setting for the executable timeout. The two main ones are, I think, PS Check, which has a timeout, and this guy, Power Trap, which has a timeout.
So by override, you mean that if the trap tool is set to 10 minutes, but your overall is set to 5, the 10 minutes will be honored for the trapping, 5 minutes for everything else?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. The last thing I'll show you is kind of a geeky TWiST user kind of thing, but it can really come in handy. In fact, we had a good example of this just yesterday. This has to do with regular expressions. Now, from a user's standpoint, someone who's uploading files, I'm sure they don't really care about regular expressions. I don't even need to know what they are to submit files in TWiST. But us old-timers kind of know that those are kind of handy. Now, look at that mess. Now, you might say that I just made that up for the webinar today, but it's not. This was actually something a user requested yesterday. They have a very strict naming convention, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 digits, an underscore. 3 letters, uppercase, underscore. 3 digits, underscore. 6 digits, and then PDF. Well, we can obviously do it, but who wants to type that out? That's no fun, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, underscore ABC, score 1, 2, 3, underscore 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, dot PDF. Holy cow. It works, but what a nightmare. One of the problems with TWiST over the years is TWiST was based on the TCL 7.3 libraries. Because of those, there were certain options within regular expressions that we couldn't use. That same expression can be represented in a much shorter way. I wish I could zoom my screen. You could probably see this a little bit better. But you can see here at the beginning, you can represent 5 digits in this way, 0 through 9, and that's inside of curly braces. 5 is A through Z, 3 times again. So you have like this little operator here that can define the number of those. In fact, there's an even shorter way to do it, which is right here. The character /D means digit. /D5 means 5 digits. This is the easiest way still to represent the letters, 3 and 6. Now, if you decide to go hog wild and start playing around with these things, you might get in here and say, I'm going to use the test button now, right, to test these things. You'll test it, and it's not going to match. And so you're going to go, what the heck? I thought we had these new regular expressions. The problem is that the TWiST editor, the way the jar file is put together, it still has the older libraries in it. So this thing, testing with these type of expressions is not going to work for us. So you either are presented with the need to actually submit files to approve them, or if you want to go the extra mile, on a Mac, it's actually a little dashboard which you can get your hands on. It's a freebie where you can test regular expressions. Very straightforward. You just type in the expression here and type in a file name there. And if you're looking at like an equivalence with TWiST, right? That's the regular expression, that's your file name, and down here it presents you with the results. An even more interesting one, at least I like it, is Firefox has a nice tool as well. It's this regular expression tester. Same kind of idea, where you can, we'll just do a really simplistic one. No, we'll do this. /D, right? The stuff I was telling you, let's say 3 digits, right? Followed by an underscore, and we'll just say it's followed by, oh, I don't know, 3 letters. I can barely see that myself. Yeah, I think that's a curly brace. There we go.
If anybody wants to zoom in on that, remember you can use the zoom function on the top left, other than Mike.
And this is some of these things work a little different than what we're used to in TWiST. These are essentially like the atoms you do in TWiST. Instead of saying #2 or #1, you say a $sign. So you can see here we've evaluated the expression. Those are like your atoms to build a new name. That's the text, and this is the result. That's a handy one. Again, people who are used to working in TWiST and being able to test complex regular expressions, you do. I mean, I'm no different than anyone else. You get dependent on the test button to get in there and play around with these things to make sure you haven't fat-fingered anything. So those little checker things are pretty handy. Or, like I said, you could have a couple test files and then just throw them in the workflow, and you'll find out real quick if your regular expressions are matching and working for you. So I think I'm out of time.
Yep, that would do it. I think we'll go ahead and cover some questions now.
Okay.
And I'll throw those out there, and either one of us will answer them, Mike.
Okay.
So first of all, where do you get the InDesign plugin? And does it work in version 6 as well, or just version 7?
That's a good question. I'm not sure if it works with TWiST 6. I don't think I've even tried it.
I'm not sure either, but I believe it uses web links, so it would probably work, but I'd have to test it.
Yeah, it depends on if the call is any different. I actually have a TWiST 6 server running right now. Let's point it to it and see if it freaks out. Let's see. That would be 115. So let's test. Well, it sees it out there. Let's see if it sees my workflows. Upload to TWiST. I'd say that's not encouraging so far. We could test further, but you know, I keep thinking I have tried this before and it doesn't work. There may be a call in there that's just a little bit different. So it actually sees the TWiST server, but it doesn't look like it's able to grab all the goodies off of it.
Right, and I should mention as well for those ES users, there is a ES plugin as well that they're working on and have some functionality built into for submitting files to ES, and they're going to build other functions like actually pulling images off of the ES server to place in Design.
Yeah, actually, I have that loaded on my other machine. I forgot to put it on this one, but
that's right.
Sure we
can
can
cover
show
that. We'll cover that in a future
Yeah.
webinar. Is SFTP supported by the input rules, or is it just FTP?
I'd have to say no to SFTP.
Yeah,
I mean, SFTP is a completely different protocol.
Right, I believe it's just FTP right now.
Yeah, right. Let me just pop one thing in here real quick.
Yep.
That was a source of frustration on older versions of TWiST. When people wanted to use the transmit tool and use SFTP, you didn't have the ability to enter in a user and a password. You had to set up a bunch of SSH keys. They've changed that now, so you can still work in that way if you want to, or you can just supply user and password and do it in that way.
Yeah, that's useful.
So what was the next question?
This is kind of a general question. How do you find performance in TWiST 7 versus TWiST 6, especially for things like trapping?
Trapping. Well, you know, I'm sure. I think there's a couple of the quad guys on the call, and they've been very generous in providing us with very difficult trapping files over the last few years. The files that we had from them, in fact, we had one that took, I think, over 24 hours to trap. I don't think I have any of them that take more than 2 minutes to trap now. The key work that was done on this had to do with dealing with transparent soft mask, which seems to be the killer in the trapping engine. The fixes for those came out on patch build 4104. Those are the fixes or the updated trapping engine speedy stuff is a TWiST 7 thing only. So if somebody was on TWiST 6 and they went to build 4104 or 4132 or anything past that, they wouldn't see this speed improvement. It's TWiST 7 only.
Great.
I'll make one other comment, just in general terms. I mean, we had this. I won't mention a customer, but they are routinely provide us with exceedingly difficult, complex files, and I mean over the top. And we had one on the old version that took, for a single PDF, almost 2 hours to interpret. You'd have to see the file, and then you wouldn't think that was so crazy. On TWiST 7, the same file came in just over an hour. It was maybe an hour and 10. So, and this was just a straight up interpretation. So in many ways, it's quite a bit faster. We're not going to say twice as fast or 3 times, but there is a noticeable speed up.
Right. Yeah. It depends on what it's doing for the file, because
yeah.
it seems like the rasterization functions, especially, are much improved. All right. And I think the last one we got here is about the TWiST editor being Java still. Are there plans to change that?
I just had an email from one of the DALiM guys yesterday about this sort of thing. I think what their plan is they're going to make it, instead of basing it off of this JNLP file and having to run up a Java applet, it's going to be an actual downloadable standalone application. So what I'm not completely clear of is if that downloadable app is still a Java app. But the thing to remember is if it's just a Java application, a fully compiled one sitting on your laptop, it doesn't have to go through any of the Java plugin process, which is what causes people all their heartache. I mean, if you're on a TWiST server like this on my Mac, right? If I launch the local editor off of this machine, it doesn't go through any of that plugin security information. This is just a standalone app. So they're going to build it so it is a single app. Whether it's still Java, I honestly don't know. He didn't say that in his email.
Yeah, they haven't been specific about that. I believe you're headed down the right thing, at least for the short term. Is it'll still be Java but built into a full application, basically. So at least getting around a lot of the security issues.
Right. Actually, I'm sitting at my other machine. I'm trying to find that email so I can tell you the exact term he used. Give me like 10 seconds. I'll see if I can find it. Let's see. Yeah, if I could remember what the subject was, I could find it. Here it is. Our plan is to go away from a Java Web Start application and go to a hard client that people can download from the Tomcat page. So yeah, the way he phrased it, I still think it's probably a Java app, but it's not the client app and not using the Java Web Start technology.
Yeah, one of our other resellers actually did comment that they believe it's a Java application still as well.
Yep.
And then that's all I have.
Okay.
So everyone, thanks for attending. Again, if you have further questions or you want to send us some suggestions for topics for future webinars, please just send that to our text@blanchard.com email address, and we'll be happy to address those questions or consider your content for one of our future webinars. I hope everyone has a great day, and thanks again for attending.